6. This is Savoy 6. Go ahead. Over.
Hello everybody, it's G, and today is episode 6 of the SitRep podcast. Today, Chris is down for the count. He's fighting a major battle in his own home. I guess there's some water leaking going on, so obviously it takes precedence. But Ralph has stepped up to the plate, as we say here in the good old US of A, to fill his shoes and then some. Ralph, welcome to the show.
Thank you, G. Thank you for having me along. Glad I was able to sort of step in and help you out a little bit while Chris is battling water.
And for those of you who don't know, Ralph is the genius behind our graphics. So he's the one that messaged me when I tried to put up that feeble attempt of my initial graphic. Goes, hey, I got something for you, and boom, there it is. So the graphics you see, our header page and our title, that's all thanks to Ralph, and we do definitely appreciate that. So, well, Ralph, let's get into it. So,
yeah.
I think the first thing we like to do, how we start off the show, is we like to talk about what you've been doing in the past week or so related to modern miniature wargaming. So anything that's been on your hobby table or game table?
Lots, but as per every other game, I've got lots of projects that I want to do, just very limited amount of time to do it. But the main thing I did this week was I managed to get a hold of, ages ago, one of the Academy helicopters, one of the tow helicopters.
Really?
So it's the 148 scale tow Defender 500D. But as is being posted on the Spectre pages on Facebook a couple times, people have been converting them into little birds.
Right, yes, of course.
So I managed to dig mine out and slice off, because the way the model's created, it's got a door on one side and doesn't have a door on the other. So cut the door out and got some plastic card ready to make the sitting areas for them. So that's going to be a little bird. And if it looks good enough, it looks tabletop, for using as a terrain piece or as an entry piece, I may pick up another one, because in the UK, these kits are only about 8 to 10 quid. Oh,
no kidding.
No, 148 scale Academy tow 500D is about, I've seen it for about £8 and I've seen them for about 15. So if you think of it, the cost of, so I'd say about $20, and then say the cost of a plastic card on top of that, which is, $2, $3,
sure.
£2, £3, and a little bit of ingenuity, you've got yourself a little bird.
That is pretty cool. Is this a kit that's still readily available, or do you have to kind of like search eBay for it?
I picked mine up from just a model makers. What I'll do is I'll drop it into the show notes, and then we can share it with everybody on the kit that people are using. But it's one of the many kits that seems to be out there that people are doing, especially if you're gaming on a budget. Because, it's great seeing resin little birds and resin, vehicles. But if you're gaming on a budget, which I am in some respects, finding something that's dirt cheap that we can then convert and use is great. And then just add some magnets to hold the propellers in. And it can be stored easily as well.
Oh, that's excellent. So you're going to do a little bit of conversion. So you're going to have the bench seats for your Rangers or Delta, whoever, to sit on the side for insert. So how would you play that?
I would use it as a terrain piece for insertion. So this is the insertion point. So you could put the little bird down as an insertion point. You could also use it as a off-the-table asset. So you could position it on the table to say where the vehicle's coming in for, say, sniper support, which is what predominantly the version I'll be doing it would be for, as well as dropping troops off.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't put the guns underneath. But, if you've got a tow version, it could be where the vehicle's coming in for a fast run, things like that. You could also, because it's dirt cheap, take it and cut it up, make it look like a crashed version.
Of course,
so it could be an objective. So you could have a crashed version of the vehicle on the table with a couple of pilots, and that's the objective for your special forces, your Rangers, your British military, to go and, say, rescue the pilots before insurgents or whoever else is coming to claim them.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, as you may know, helicopters are my thing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and to have a helicopter in the game in any format is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because unfortunately, with the skirmish level, a lot of times your aviation assets are off table. You know,
Yeah.
so it's basically an off table asset that somehow gets played into it for some aspect. Mm-hmm. To be able to take a little bird and actually do an insert into your table, or to use it as an objective, I think that just elevates the game that much more, because anybody who's been around the military or knows anything about the military, helicopters are a vital part of a mission. That, you know, it's a big support item. It can be your, you know, aircraft support for close air support. There's just so many. It's really intertwined into not only regular infantry and boots on the ground, but your special operations as well. So to get it into the game, I think just adds that next level. So that's really impressive. I'm really impressed that you're able to convert that.
It's not a difficult conversion job, really, to be honest. It's you know, it won't look exactly like a little bird, and there are little bird kits that you can't get anymore, because I've trolled Google looking for a 1/48 scale little bird, you know, and trying to find a kit that looks like it for a reasonable price, especially in the UK, especially because if it's say based in America, we've got to include shipping costs.
Yeah,
that can be, you know, quite expensive for some other things. So just finding something and just slapping on 2 pieces of plastic card, you know, it's and then painting it up, it'll look, you know, it'll look the job, it'll look fit for purpose, which I think is what a lot of gamers, especially gamers that have limited budgets and limited resources, are looking for. They're looking for something that's fit for purpose, so it's going to sit on the table, it'll look like it should, and then you can build your scenarios around that.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be diorama quality. It just has to be gameplay. You know, if it fits into the gameplay, because let's be honest, when you play a game, there's tabletop standard and then there's competition display standard.
Yeah.
And I am perfectly happy with a good quality tabletop standard for my miniatures, unless I'm building a little diorama or something. As long as it's pretty close in realism. Obviously, I wouldn't want pink and purple camouflage, because that just would, you know, that'd be ridiculous. You know, maybe in Hollywood, I don't know. But, but, you know, for the average gamer, getting it to a tabletop standard and realizing that's okay, I think adds to the game experience. Yeah. That's kind of one of the downfalls when you look at miniature magazines or some of the rule books. When you have these professionally studio painted miniatures, they look amazing, don't get me wrong, but sometimes people kind of try to compare their painting skills to them, and they're like, oh, I can never paint like that, I don't even know if I want to try. So just put some paint on there. You know, I find painting to be cathartic. To me, it's where I can sit and lose myself into whatever I'm painting, you know, whether it's modern or fantasy, whatever it may be, and what the end product is what I'm happy with. So I think just being able to paint and get miniatures on the table, because really, I don't know how you think about it, Ralph, but miniature wargaming, even modern and any other aspect of miniature wargaming, it's a twofold. It's the gameplay and then the hobby aspect of painting and making scenery and vehicles and etc.
Yeah. So it's definitely that. It's definitely the it's actually 3 if you think about it, because you've got the gaming itself, so you've got your opponent and you're playing against him, or if you're playing something possibly like force on force, which can be one against like an AI type of thing. Yeah. So you've got that element, you've got the copy, but then there's also the social aspects of talking after you've finished the game. You know, the interactions of, oh, I should have done that. You know, it's the it's almost like the after action reports you see people write, but instead of writing it, that they're sitting down the pub in the UK, that's what we do, and talk about what happened and saying, I should have done this, I should have done this, oh, we messed this rule up, well, next time we'll try and do it. So it's that element as well, and that's what I think draws a lot of people into gaming, especially now. You know, that there's an upsurge in all types of gaming, especially watching people game.
Yeah,
you know, you sort of look online and you look at Twitch with, you know, for streaming, and every other channel seems to be a role playing channel. So there's been this big upsurge in, as they say, geek culture. I was a geek before it was cool. And that element has shown people that it's good to game and it's good to interact with each other, and it doesn't matter what game it is. Now, war games are a law unto themselves, because you will get those people who are very strict with their wargaming, from point of view of their mentality around it, but it's still a game after all. Don't get strict, don't get hung up on it, have fun, and that's what it's there for everybody to have with.
I definitely agree, and that's one of the things I'm kind of jealous about here versus over in the UK, because when we're over for boot camps or for conventions, and say a boot camp, which we have one coming up next week for Beast of War on tabletop, and I think it's Bolt Action Desert War. So if you guys have nothing better to do next weekend, check out that coverage. But after we play games, they go to the pub, and then you talk about, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. Hey, I really like how you painted those guys, or how you decided to equip those. I mean, it's really an in-depth conversation at a very friendly level, and I don't really think there's any judgment. It's just, oh yeah, that would have worked better, and you get input from all sides. It's not like one person going, oh, I screwed up, and the other person going, yeah, you really did. It's a very casual, friendly conversation. So we don't have that here too much in the U.S. So that's one of those things that I'm a little jealous of for you guys over there.
Yeah, we do. I mean, our gaming groups are very much like that. I occasionally go to a local gaming group up here in the northeast of England. As you can probably tell by my accent, I'm from Newcastle, so I've got a Geordie accent. And it's very much like that. It's a very open-ended, and that was where I first got my taste. Not so much my taste of modern gaming, but that's where I did my first sessions of Spectre. And we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
I'd had a little bit of a break from tabletop gaming from up until about 2015. I hadn't done a lot for about 10 to 12 years. Different reasons. And then unfortunately, I lost my job, so I had some time on my hand, and I got into doing some bolt action. And then Spectre's rules popped up, and it was like, yeah, let's have a look at that. And that's how I got into modern gaming. That and Skirmish Sanguine, but I've never played Skirmish Sanguine. I've got the rules, I've read them, but I've never played it. It's Spectre's my rule set. I like that rule set. It's nice, lightweight in, not a lot of bookkeeping.
Yeah.
But can be very fast-paced, and it's extremely nasty.
It's very killy.
Very, very killy. If you don't use smoke, if you don't use the terrain properly, and you get caught out in the open, it is very, very killy, which is, it represents, for my feeling, how it would actually be.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, in modern warfare, if you're caught in the open with modern weapons, you're pretty much toast. So, well, that's very interesting. Anything else you've been gaming or hobbying?
I was painting up the Spectre Nomad, Task Force Nomad.
Oh, nice.
Minis, which I do quite like, but I've put them to one side, and I've redug out my tier 1 sets. So I've got 2 of them painted, but I've had them painted for a while, and I've got about 4 of them primed, and 3 of them need basing with some milliput, because the way I do mine is I'll stick them on a base, and then I'll milliput them to the base, so it looks like the miniature's part of the base.
Okay.
Then give it a primer black. I've been priming in the main. Paint the mini, and then I'll take some of the technical paints from Games Workshop. The ones where you can do earth.
Yes. I have the snow one. I use quite a bit.
I use the acrylic earth and things like that on top for the base around the feet, and then dry brush it a bit so it looks like they're standing on, desert or mud or cracked earth, and then put some foliage on it. So.
Oh, nice.
So I like that paint for that, because it means then you're not having to use flock or sand or things which can come off. I painted up a selection of Empress British.
Okay.
One of my first paintings when I got some of the modern minis, I got 8 Empress British troops, and I bought 8 Fusilier heads. There's actually more than 8, because, like I said, my father was in the Fusiliers. He was in the Royal Regiment Fusiliers that became the Northumberland that were the Northumberland Fusiliers.
Right.
So it's the one with the red and white red and white hackle that you'll often see in pictures from British military. So I painted them up in just some skeleton bone with some brown sort of patches for British to look like British desert from Afghanistan or Iraq. But I based them with some milliput and put some sand on there, like chinchilla sand, and it's all flaking off now, and there's a little bit of a pain in behind. So, but I got them sitting there, so that's a section of 8, and I painted an extra one up, and I gave it to my dad.
Oh, nice.
But I also painted up a World War II bolt action British with a Fusilier head and gave him that as well. So he's got a modern and a World War II Fusilier for him because he was in the Fusiliers.
That's awesome.
So
okay. Well, that is really awesome. Speaking of stuff you do for your family, I did something similar for my dad. He was in the Army as well. He was a helicopter pilot. Go figure. And I built him a Huey model once because he was big into models. But one of my proudest moments as a miniature gamer was I remember as a kid he used to watch Zulu Dawn and the movie Zulu. If you know those movies.
I do. My dad watches Zulu. So I would do my Michael Caine impersonation about throwing spears. That's just wrong,
So, I mean, to me, that's always been ingrained in me. So I took, I had got my hands, and this was years and years ago when I was actually still in high school. I got my hands on a Zulu warrior chieftain. I don't know what company it was from. I mean, this is talking the late 80s. And I painted it up, and then I went to my dog, who was an old English sheepdog with the long gray and white hair, and I cut off a couple patches of hair, and I glued it on for like the armbands, anything that you could use fur for. So he still has it. It's sitting on his shelf. So, I mean, even to this day, one of my proudest moments. I don't know if it was a really great paint job, but it sure looks cool with the dog hair on it. So, it's one of those things you do for your family.
It is definitely. So you had a dog with bald spots, did you?
Well, it's old English sheepdog. The big old sheepdogs with the big long fuzzy hair. You would never know she cut off a little bit here and there. So, but other than that, for me, well, we've been doing a lot of filming for Beast of War, so that takes up a lot of my free time. I've been working on getting the Polish Grom cleaned up from Tim over at SASM, Special Artisan Service Miniatures. And I'm working on the SOCR boat, the Riverine, the fast attack boat, like you saw in Act of Valor. I love that scene.
Yes. I love. There's nothing like the sound of in the morning, is there? With that boat turning up. It's just
it really
just
gets
an incredible scene. What's interesting is I did a little bit of research on how they filmed it because there's a bunch of behind the scenes. That was a live fire exercise that they filmed.
Oh, really? I mean, that makes sense. I mean, looking at it when I saw it in the movie theater. And seeing that, I'm like, that's real. I mean, I didn't know it was a live fire exercise. I figured maybe they just paid somebody to let them, blow off ammo. But
no, that was a live fire training exercise that they were allowed to that put the camera in the position, or it was live fire for what they were doing. Because all but a few of the SEALs were actually active SEALs. So all of them were active members. I think it's SEAL Team 2. Not Dev Crew, because you'll never see Dev Crew guys. Right. But it was all live fire as well, which was like they allowed them to do that. It was like, geez, because the amount of ammo they had put out was just incredible.
Oh yeah.
And then of course Spectre this last week dropped conversion kits for more bits for their vehicles.
Yeah, don't they have the auto gun kit?
They put in the large. Is it the large 50 cal chain gun now?
Well, let's take a
look. Let's
have
a look. There it is. It's on their front page. Because you had the minigun, which I've got a couple of, because I've got some Spectre vehicles to build up.
I still have my razors to build from last UK Games Expo when I talked to Steven. Still sitting there. I keep looking at them going, I'm going to get to them. And the only reason I haven't built them yet is because I want to devote some really good quality time to it. It's not because the kits themselves have put me off. I don't want people to think that I've put them on the shelf, because it's like, oh, I don't want to deal with it. It's not that at all. It's I want to be able to devote some good quality. Oh, man, look at that. Yeah. I'm looking at the page as well, and I'm telling you what, it's nice.
Yeah, the GAU 19 is what they put out this past for their Humvees. I've got a couple of the tentacles, but I'm going to convert them to Special Forces tentacles. That's what I got the miniguns for, so they would either go with Task Force Nomad or with my my Tier 1 troopers. But that's something else we're going to have a chat about a little bit later, was the idea of linking scenarios, which we can come to, and how we, a starting point, which links back into the other thing that Spectre dropped, which we can talk about, which is their jungle supplements.
So, I mean, we can actually move right into that, because that's pretty much all the hobby I have had time for. So, between work, college, because I'm going back to get my master's, and, be some more work, so it doesn't leave much time for everything else.
I've done that. I did my what's called a diploma here, then spent 10 years working, and then went back and got a master's. So I know the trials and tribulations of studying part-time. It's horrendous.
Yeah. So, all right, well, that's a good segue. Let's talk about the Jungle expansion from Spectre. The Jungle supplement, it's a free download from their site. They call it Operation Jungle Storm Part 1, written by Matt. Now, for those of you who don't know much about Spectre, Matt is this kind of guy, if you're friends with him on Facebook, he sends pictures from all over the world.
Yeah.
Not sure what he's doing all over the world, but he's still intermixed. I don't know if he's doing some consultant work or what he does for different government agencies, but he's still involved in this. So the stuff that he writes about in these rules and expansions, this is real life experience translated into a game system.
Yeah, it's from what I can. If anybody's watched it, I recommend finding Spectre's YouTube channel.
Yes.
Because they did a Q&A. And in that Q&A, Matt said that he wasn't originally a gamer, but he reached out to Spectre when he saw their Kickstarter, asking if they wanted a consultant, and that's how he got the job, pretty much. But yeah, I occasionally will message Matt through Facebook as well, because he's posted things up. He did a Little Bird conversion, which he posted up some pictures of a while ago. He did a downed drone. He did a down Reaper drone.
Yes. So
he's got as a gaming, it must be a gaming piece, because it looked really good. So it was like 1/48 Reaper drone that he's shattered the wings off and stuff, and it looks like it's crashed. Which would be an excellent scenario, I guess. A downed drone.
Oh, most definitely, yeah, because you got to go in and retrieve.
Yeah, retrieve the box, or retrieve the information, or blow it up to stop the enemy from getting a hold of it.
Yes.
But he was posting up, when I was chatting to him more recently, Predators from Protoss games. So if anybody's been watching the Spectre Facebook group, Ivan has been dropping some pictures of the paint jobs he's been getting of his Spectre minis against Predator, and he posted up some house-grown rules for Predator.
Nice. So, it's a perfect fit.
So, linking into jungle, you've got the Predator there now. So, but Matt's very active on. They all are very active on the Facebook group. And then when this dropped, if this was we knew it was coming. They mentioned this a year ago, I think. But when it dropped, it was like, oh, it's free as well, which is really nice. I think from a point of view of getting something into players' hands really quickly.
Yes, most definitely.
Have you had a look at it? Have you had a sort of a skim?
I haven't had too much. I skimmed through it. I like how it's very well laid out. Yeah. I like that they've used new artwork and pictures in it. Because there's nothing worse than getting a supplement and just have recycled pictures and graphics.
It's true.
Because it kind of takes away from some of it. So, I'm looking at the jungle rules with ranges. Because the thing with some expansions, and I can't think of a game per se top of my head, but I know it's happened in the past. So when you go from open area to jungle rules, they don't always translate the rules for jungle fighting, meaning that when you're in the jungle, you don't have a lot of straight lines. There isn't a lot of lanes of fire. You know, it's your very short lanes of fire. So you have to take that into account because you can't be shooting across a game table in a jungle because there's vegetation and whatnot throughout it. So I'm looking through these, and I definitely like how they have scanning maybe conducted under the canopy. So under 0 to 12, you got a -1 modifier, and they really put a lot of thought into it. There's a thing for punchy stakes.
Yes, he's put in some rules for booby traps and IEDs that, say, the locals would use. And also the good thing I like about it from a point of view of starting, because this is part 1 as well, which I think hasn't been sort of really said much.
Yeah,
there's a second supplement coming. Is the force breakdown. So for a lot of people and a lot of players that I've played with when we played Spectre, especially, is we don't use point system. I know there's a lot of games out there, Bolt Action and different ones that use point values. So you've got a 500 point force versus a 500 point force. You can do that with Spectre, but the best thing about Spectre we found was having a scenario. So you have a mission, whether that be a hostage rescue, things like that, or whatever's in this, and you don't play the points, you play the force. So say, for example, you've got an operations, a 6-man, special forces team, say SAS, 6-man SAS team, kitted out, say you've got 20 or 30 in what's called militia, so low-end trained op 4 against them. In a couple of the scenarios we did was, because it's very killy, and it is very killy and it's supposed to be very killy, we would recycle the dead forces.
Yeah.
So say if we did one which had a collection, the one we did was you had an SAS section of 8, I think it was 8 SAS operators in a like a compound, and they had to defend that compound until they could be rescued. And we had basically waves of insurgents attacking the compound. So they had to do it was almost like Rorke's Drift.
Okay.
But a modern take on Rorke's Drift.
Nice.
So you had an SAS section, and we didn't play it, but that type of scenario, which, you when you're looking at Spectre, is really easy to do, and Spectre got the rules for it as well, is you could put limited ammo on it, because there's rules in the main rule book for ammo. So, you could say, right, each trooper has this much ammo, and when you start running out of ammo, that starts putting up the stakes even more. And with these rules that they've dropped, is they've got the force breakdown, so you don't need to scrabble around with a piece of paper and a pencil and and say this trooper's got this and it's going to cost this points. It says this is an 8-man patrol or 6-man patrol. This is the equipment they've had. Yeah. This is the op 4. This is what they've got. Now go play.
Which is nice. I mean, yeah, as you pointed out, you don't have to sit there and waste time trying to figure out points. Oh, I can only have this many points. Oh, but I can only have this equipment. Oh, I got to change this. So, I was looking through that as you were speaking, and it's very well laid out. I was looking at this one. What is this? Mission 1, the Receive Patrol. So, Task Force is a 6-man team, and then your bad guys are 3 10-man militia patrols, 2 4-man militia op teams, and listening points. And then, my goodness, that's 38 bad guys to 6 guys.
Yeah. Well, the way Spectre rules works is whenever an op 4, like a militia or them, whenever you shoot somebody and you don't kill them, they get suppression on them. And what happens, I'm trying to remember, it's been a while since I played. So say, for example, you've got 10 guys and each of them have got 3 suppression on them, yeah? When you roll your initiative, you have like a command score, if I remember correctly, and you deduct whatever suppression you've got from that roll, and you add that to the dice. So say you've got 10 suppression and you roll 6, you've technically got -4 initiative, but the special forces can only have the maximum of 2 suppression, if I remember correctly, on each. I could be completely wrong. Don't kill me. I've been a while since I've read it. So they would roll a dice as well, and whichever one's got the highest score, of course, has got the initiative. So that means technically the special forces guys, if they don't have a lot of suppression on them, will always have, technically the initiative. And the reason they don't have as much suppression is because of their training. They take that into account as well. And the other interesting thing, which you could easily adapt within the jungle rules, is you can have a special forces operator, or as they call them, elite, controlling or as like a leader for a militia. So it's like he's the technical advisor.
Yeah.
And you can have, non-special forces people under him, if I remember correctly. So you can have that type of play. So if you wanted to adapt the jungle rules, if someone's got the jungle rules to play through all the missions and they're waiting for the second part but haven't got around to the second part yet, they could write their own missions based around something like that, where they're helping out the forces that need support or whatever within sort of this jungle environment. The other interesting thing about the jungle rules, especially when you're looking to put in like punji sticks and things like that, is Spectre's very easy to drop into other theaters of war or other time periods. There's been a lot of talk on the Spectre boards about World War II.
Yeah.
So running missions in World War II. So you could have like an OSS unit of say 4 or 6, British and American agents raiding a German submarine pen, a bit like the Commandos PC game, doing that type of thing. But the other thing you could do is with this jungle setting is then move it up into Vietnam.
Right.
So if you wanted to do something that's different and have that sort of players, you could run a 6 or 8 man Delta 4 Alpha team, or a collection of Navy SEALs, because that's when they first sort of got their official feet wet, shall we say, in the Mekong Delta, in around Laos and Cambodia and things like that. So you could run missions using the jungle rules that are there and set it in that period. So it allows for that scope of doing ultra modern right the way down to World War II and back again, with just a little bit of tweaks in here and there. Because I know last week you talked about Skirmish Sangan doing their is it Skirmish Normandy?
Yes, yeah.
Which I saw and went, oh, that's interesting. That's piqued my interest, because I do play bolt action, but I find bolt action very normal, shall we say. There's some interesting things in bolt action, but it's very much the same as a lot of the other World War IIs out of there, where I think with Skirmish Sangan and setting it in that, it's going to be slightly different because there's more character to the pieces that you put on the board.
Oh yeah,
because
I can equate it to like a role-playing miniatures game.
Mm-hmm. Very, very much like an RPG, because I've not seen any other miniatures game, and I could be wrong, where you roll a dice for stats. Where with Skirmish Sangan you roll that D10 and that's your body stat, isn't it? And, and all of that. I've not seen any other sort of miniatures game that does that. I could be wrong, from what I've seen out there. But a vast majority of them have pre-printed stats. So, you look at 40k and you've got your weapon skill. You look at bolt action, you've got your morale and everything all preset. You look at Spectre and you've got elite and everything like that. I've not seen any other game where you're taking an RPG element and bringing it into the game.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a game worth the look. It's really, like I said, more of an RPG type style. It definitely dwells into platoon and squad combat. It is a little bit math heavy, and that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just the way it's based on percentages of success. So it's just figuring out those success rates. So, but like I said, it really makes the player invest in their platoon, in their squads. So, but yeah, it's a game we'll have to definitely delve in much deeper on a future episode. But especially
especially with all the different supplements that are out there. With Deniable Ops, which was the latest one, which is really good, and that's written by one of the guys that's on a lot of the boards. Michael wrote that. He has the is it Michael Charge or Change? He has the Change blog on that he does all his modern stuff with.
Yes.
He was the writer of that Deniable Ops, and when you skim through it as well, I picked it up because it's a nice source book and it goes with Skim and Sangan. But when you have a look through it, it's got scenarios in the back, and those scenarios are easily adaptable to, say, Spectre or Black Ops or Skirmish, because it's written for Skirmish Scanning. So you've got a collection of modern scenarios that you could easily move around.
Yeah, very easily.
Mm-hmm. I'm just looking here at someone's posted up some pictures of a 4x4 on the Spectre list, so it's quite nice to look at the pictures of people painting their stuff for inspiration.
So, one of the other things I was looking at the expansion here, just kind of shows you some of the realism they add to it. They have hyenas and militia attack dogs. I have heard that African warlords have actually used hyenas as guard dogs or guard animals, if you will. Mm-hmm. And so to have them add that in is a really nice touch. And then they talk about tree cutting charges. I can tell you from practical experience, we used to use a lot of det cord to make LZs really fast when we needed to. So, there's nothing better than wrapping a few rounds of det cord around a tree and just popping it. It's a very satisfying feeling. It really is. So, it's just, I really like the little touches they've added to this. And then they have the off-table assets of a rapid heavy machine gun. So Pumas with 50 cals.
Yeah.
And then they have what's called a compass call, which that one I wasn't familiar with. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I've not heard of that. I mean, I know of the Puma with the 50 cals, the sort of the standard, the British transport helicopter. I've not seen many. I'm guessing they are still used. I believe what Matt's written in the book is thing. I know. I asked him a question about 6 to 8 months ago because I was looking to get an Osprey in model kit format to use as a terrain piece as well. Because it's a nice little thing, and I'd just finished painting up the SAS Jungle Team, their very first jungle miniatures that they did, which you painted up some of them. And I was looking at a way of how would these guys be inserted, and asked about the Osprey, and got a reply back and things like that from it. So, but I've never heard of the compass thing. So
yeah, I mean that must be a British term. Because we just call it, electronic warfare. So,
right.
Mm-hmm. So, it's essentially what it is. It's some type of aircraft that has electronic warfare countermeasures on it to jam radios and things like that. So it was interesting to have it, see it as a compass call. So I learned something new. It's just very well laid out.
Yep.
So once you guys pick up the original rule book when you're ready to expand. And, it's kind of funny that this has come out in this time frame, because in previous episodes, I've talked about the scenario that I'm trying to put together and build, which is in Belize, where you have the SAS jungle warfare training and having a cartel/terrorist camps deep in the jungle, and your SAS going, nope, not in my backyard, and then having to raid it. So, I mean, having this now pop up just helps so much.
It does, actually, because when I think I first started talking to you on BOW's forums, I was chatting with Jim Oriskany.
Yep.
Everybody on BSO knows who Oriskany is. And he helped me come up with I wanted to create a setting. I didn't want to use anywhere real world because I didn't want to step on anybody's toes and make them feel uncomfortable about playing, in a country in an active war zone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I did was I came up with a fake African country on sort of the same side as Somalia.
Okay.
So the idea was on the coasts and stuff. It was very Middle Eastern, so I could use adobe buildings and things like that, because of people traveling over during history. And in the jungles, it was very typical traditional African, almost a bit like what you see in the movies like Blood Diamond, the one with Bruce Willis, Tears of the Sun.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Very much in the jungle, and there was very much that has happened, in the sort of the Tears of the Sun, the warlords, the militia gaining foothold, coups, things like that. So Jim was very kindly helped me draw. He drew a map out, and I had some text that I put together and wrapped around, and I'm busy still working on it, because you get onto projects and you keep doing these things, and you never get around to doing it. But this book is like, I guess I don't need to do that anymore, because we've got this. This has sort of appeared.
Yeah.
But
I think it's really nice to see them just continually supporting the game.
Yeah.
Because here's one of my biggest concerns about our hobby, gaming, miniature gaming. We all see all the Kickstarters that come out.
Yeah.
And all of these amazing games that come out of Kickstarter. But my problem with Kickstarter and these games that come out, it's a one and done. I've said this before. I want a game that I can delve into and invest in and feel like there's going to be something else coming around the corner, and then I'm going to have more and exciting things to do, and not just a one and done. And that's why 40K is so successful, because they continue to produce and expand the universe, not always to everybody's liking, but
true,
it's continuously supported. Some of these games, Bolt Action's very successful because, one, it's very easy to play. Not that it's an easy game; it's just very easy to play and understand how to play it. So that makes it. When I first learned how to play Bolt Action, I equated it to the 40K of World War II, because it was easy to play. If you go back to some of the original rule sets for 40K, and it expanded. Range, while it was somewhat important, was not always realistic. Come on. When you can't fire an M1 rifle across the Pegasus Bridge or, a Lee Enfield, when you think about the realistic range of a rifle, you should be able to shoot from one side of the canal to the other side with no issues. But it's designed for you to be playing fun and fast and free. So when you have games on Kickstarter that produce these amazing games and these expansions, and that's it. There's nothing else. And it's hard to invest in that. You get caught up in the hype. I mean, believe me, I've been caught up in the hype, unfortunately. It's a side effect of the business that we're in, being part of the Beast of War crew. We get to see all these amazing projects, and all of a sudden, oh, yeah, I got to have that. And then it sits there on your shelf. So, but
shiny syndrome.
Shiny syndrome, most definitely. And I am, show me anything. There was a game. I won't mention the game, but there was a game that used miniatures and a app interface, and you had this stylus, and you would touch the miniature and then the board, and you could. Yeah,
I kind of wish what it might have been.
And we covered it at Gen Con a few years back, and I told you I got suckered into it, hook, line, and sinker. And Dawn. She's like, oh, it's nice, but she's like, whoa, because I was ready to pull out the card and buy everything, and she's like, why don't we just get the starter set and go from there? And we've played it a couple times and learned that you really didn't need the miniatures to play the game, and after a while it was kind of, I don't want to say predictable, but it just lost some of the magic, and unfortunately it's not, it's no longer around. It had promise, it just, I don't know, it just didn't live up to the hype. So. Yes, Shiny Syndrome, you show me something that looks really cool, I'm pretty much going to buy it. But, getting back to our conversation, it's nice to see expansions going out. Spectre's doing it. I've pulled up my copy of, where am I? Plausible Deniability.
Yeah.
So they sent me a copy to review, so I think we're going to have to dedicate a show to Skirmistan and talk about all the expansions. And we did reach out to Colin. I think Chris did, and I've talked to him in the past. We've been trying to get them on Beast of War for a long time.
Yeah.
I've really been pushing for that. So I think it's time that we get them on the show. I know he's really interested in coming on the show, and definitely we're going to have to do a Spectre show, a full-blown with Steve and Matt. on the show and talk about all what they've got going on. So I think them.
The interesting thing about Spectre though is they are very, very tight-lipped.
Yes, they are.
Which I do like about what's coming, and then they'll just drop something and people go, ah, ah, ah. Like when they dropped the Spetsnaz.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks ago. Well, they dropped the FSB kill team, which was like, those are nice, and they are carrying 50 caliber weapons. Okay. And then they posted up the video where Matt explained what they were carrying, and it was like, jeez, and then they decided, oh, we're going to drop the new Spetsnaz set as well, and it was like, okay, right, yeah. we knew something was coming, but you didn't tell with that. So they're very, very, tight-lipped, but also they on their Instagram they'll post up things. Stephen will post up like some of the sculpts, some of the greens.
Yeah.
So he posted up the Delta, the Green Berets, which are really nice set. I don't know if you've picked them ones up yet, which are the Jungle Green Berets.
No, I have not. I definitely got to get some.
They are really good there. But also on one of the other ones that posted up was a collection. It was a bike. So it was just a model of a pedal bike.
Yeah.
There was something else, and then there was a drone. And I'm talking probably something that you would see in like Ghost Recon Wildlands, a little hand drone.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
something
yeah.
Like, was that?
Yeah.
So it's like when are these coming out? When are you doing the drone route? Because that's what you want. You want that type of thing.
So my only complaint about Spectre, here's my only. Yeah, I don't want everybody to think we're just total fans,
Nope.
and they can do no wrong. And it's really not that they've done anything wrong. I just wish they would keep their ranges. It's like they do a range and it's there for a while, and then they move on to a new one, and then you can't get the old ones.
Yeah.
I just wish, and I know molds, wear out, and it's a lot of money and investment to reproduce them, and you want to keep things fresh and new. But like the old SF ones that they used to have, and I think there was the old SEAL teams. They had I never got a chance to get them, so it would be nice to pick some of those up.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think they're getting good at that. They have posted up saying that they do a restock, and I think the dev, because they've redesigned the site's a little bit easier to find some things now.
Yeah.
So you never know, but yeah, I think the only other thing I think is that they have, shall we say, opened up what modern gaming is. So there's a lot of companies out there now looking at bringing in modern miniatures, and my one complaint, I would like to see some of the Spectre minis in plastics, because it would be easier to kit bash.
True.
And that's something a lot of us like to do with our minis. I did it with a couple of Bolt Action minis to create some unique officers. So for my US, I've got a first lieutenant carrying a German MP44, so he's carrying a German assault rifle.
Nice.
Even though the rules class it as I class it as a submachine gun, but I just wanted something different to make him, shall we say, stand out on the table.
Of course, yeah.
So something like that would be nice, but I can't. I think moderns would be difficult from Spectre. I know Warlord do them with their zombie apocalypse military. Set that they did the zombie the military survivors.
Yes, yeah.
Where you can get them in plastics, but they're not the right size, shall we say. They're the heroic size, I would class them as.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens in the future.
Well, you know what the other thing is, that is kind of a frustration, is that they seem to sell out pretty quickly of their newer stuff. And it's like, how do these people get it so fast? But you know what? Looking at prices, when you look at a full, so just as an example, let's take the SAS. So you get the whole, the counterterrorism response squad, 17 pounds for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 minis.
Yeah,
that is their prices are very, very good. I mean, 17 pounds is what, $25. So I mean, that's a very good, extremely good when you compare it to some of the other companies out there. And the quality of the minis are good. So
Yeah.
I can see why they sell out. Good game, good minis, and an excellent price. So.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you can bolt on top of that some of the extras they do. So if you look at the same page, you've got your dog handler and your sniper.
Yeah.
So say 17 plus another, is it $4.99? I think it is for each of them. $2.99 and $4.99. So say another So say another £8 total. So for £25, you can get a 8-man unit to put on the table.
Yeah, it's really it's easy to get into the game from a cost standpoint.
From a cost standpoint, it's probably one of the best cost per thing out there. I know that the guys at Surma Sangan on their website do minis as well, and I know they're looking to do a Kickstarter for more moderns. Because they posted up some renders. We don't know when that's coming around, but it looks like they're moving into doing more modern, not like the range that they did, which was for Somalia and for the Black Hawk Down time period, so in early 90s. These are going to be more ultra modern.
Yes.
So that'll be an interesting one to see when that turns out, what it's like, because I haven't looked at the. I've looked at the minis. I haven't got any of the minis, and the minis look really highly of a good quality and good detail.
They are.
As well.
I have, and I'll post them on the Facebook page. I painted up several of the Delta guys.
Yep.
I got from one of the Kickstarters back in the day, and I have some of the Rangers as well. So they do really good, and I backed the one Kickstarter for, oh my gosh, I think it was Somalia. Or Africa? The Africa one. Was it the Africa one? I don't remember which one it was. But I forgot a couple of their buildings. I wish I could get more of those buildings. I don't or know where they got them from. They made some really nice, tin shacks and things like that. So, and I've got some Humvees of theirs that I have to put together too. I need a month off of my real life so I can finish all these projects. Is what I need. So
just a month.
Well, a month would be a good start. I could get quite a bit done. If I get up at 6:30, go to bed at midnight, I could get a lot done. So, moving from Spectre, let's talk about the cargo ship from Red Vectors.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so let me preface this by saying, how dare they? Because they must have listened to one of my podcasts when I said I've been working on a project with a friend of mine who does terrain, MDF terrain, Impotent Mortal Walt, and that we were working on a container ship. No sooner did I say that, and about a week and a half later, they come out with a container ship. So I was like, oh, really?
Prefix this, though, is that container ship, which is very detailed, is 6 foot long, and is made to order, and there's no price on it.
Oh, well,
there's no price anywhere.
Ours is going to be designed as a centerpiece as well. It's going to be. This is the mission table.
Yeah.
So we've looked at it from the design we've got in our head. Is it's going to be bigger than what that one is. And I don't mean longer, I mean taller. Because
all right, so you're going to have more floors.
We're going to have more levels, floors
more
because we want the cargo hold to be playable. Where you can pop the hatches off, go into the cargo hold, go into the engine area, get into the corridors, so it'll be a multi-level. So I have no idea what that's going to cost. I hope we don't price ourselves right out of reality. But it's a fun project to be able to explore, but that's our project. Let's talk about Red Vectors. I'm trying to find. I'm on their homepage.
It wasn't. It was posted to
Facebook.
I think it was posted onto Facebook. It's on the Spectre Facebook page, but I also think it might have been posted to Modern Military Gaming.
It's also been posted to my Facebook page because Walt goes, "Really? That was the message with the picture." Let me see if I can find it here.
Yeah, it's because I was looking through saying, is there cost, and said, no, you have to get in touch with Red Vector to get the cost, which was quite interesting. But when they dropped the pictures, it was like, how many levels? Okay, so you've got that level, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the superstructure, you have,
I've got
multi-level. But I didn't know about the main hull of the ship or anything like that. How many levels were there?
It doesn't. I've got the one here that somebody in the Spectre page posted up. So you've got the top level, then you've got like the crew level, and then you've got the level underneath that.
Okay.
So you've got like, the three where the cabin is, yeah.
Yeah.
The roof comes off that, and it goes down to like the sleeping quarters, but the deck doesn't. So the deck part, where the bow and the stern and stuff, they're separate. They're bits that are just there. They don't lift off, so you can't get into them. Where yours, as you were talking about, you'd be able to go into the deck and have the cargo containers inside of it.
Yeah.
This one, the only sort of bits that you can get inside to it are the control area, the next area underneath, and then the cabins.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking at it now, so... Yeah. So, yeah, it's just a superstructure that you can move about in. Yeah. No. It's a really nice piece.
It is.
6 feet long.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I saw that and went, yeah, that's a centerpiece. That's a one for a salute or what's the US one? What's the one that you have?
Gen Con or Adepticon would probably be more appropriate.
Adepticon. It's Adepticon. I'm thinking of. That's an Adepticon piece or a salute or colours. Colours is the other one that we have in the UK as well. I've got some things to talk about on that was posted, which looks really good. A centerpiece, for that type of thing. If you've got a gaming group and you want to put it'd be perfect for a modern participation game.
This would be a good piece for Historicon too, which
So,
is our big historical gaming convention. So,
but I can see it from was where you could have a participation game. So you have people coming in who are either the people assaulting it or the defenders.
Yes, most definitely.
The ship reminds me of the very first mission from Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the original one where you have the SES attacking the cargo ship on the North Sea. So it's very much reminds me of that. So you could have a scenario in place which is on say rough seas. So then, as part of the game, one of the elements that you have to take in consideration is the sea. Waves and things like that, and the wind and things like that. So from the point of view of gaming, it's a great play area.
Most definitely
to mess around on. Linking off that one is if people are interested in it, have a look at it. I do recommend having a look at it. Do some searching, or we'll post the link somewhere. Is if you're gaming on a budget, have a look at TT Combat. They do a smaller version of a cargo ship, which is it's reasonably priced. It's not as big, but it will do the job as well. So if you're looking for a terrain piece that does a gaming that does a cargo ship, that would be
most definitely
on the flip side of that.
Yeah, there's so much options out there right now for terrain. So there's something for everybody based on budget and need. So definitely not wanting for terrain options. And there's some people out there making some tremendous home builds as well. And I've been printing some terrain using 3D printers. I have a crashed Blackhawk I use as a objective piece that I've printed. So it's nice to see that there are many options. So you wanted to talk about colors, UK colors, and the Spectre table. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, that was really good. Andy Singleton, who posted up on the Facebook page with the pictures, I think they're the same guys that did a podcast. They do a podcast as well. And they had the Spectre guys on. So it was just before colours. And then they posted up the pictures of their colours table that they did for their game. They set it in, is it Verde Verde? Which is interesting because it's the fake South American country that every movie uses. So Commando used it and things like that. So, when he's raiding the thing in South America, it's Verde Verde and things like that. But he posted up some of the pictures, and the table really did look amazing. So what they did was they had what looked like a beachfront.
Okay.
I'm trying to get pictures of where it is because it was on the thing today. So I do apologize if I'm thingy. So they've got a couple of ships. One of the ships being the TT Combat cargo ship, linking to another ship, and then out they've got what looks like, to me, one of the Sarissa South American Mexican churches.
Uh-huh.
So they've got this south of the border thing, and the scenario was, there it is there. So from what I can see from the scenario, it was cartel versus CIA versus some, I think it's Delta or other special forces.
Nice.
But he's also got a 1/48th scale Huey in there with a couple of gunners on the sides for sniper support. That they did. So that's the idea. That's one of the ideas that it looks like they might have used for the side gunners on the Huey, the Razor crew.
Okay.
So they've got the mini sitting there,
Nice.
but
Yeah.
it's a South American themed table, which I don't think you get to see a lot of.
Oh, I think you're going to see much more because
I think
we're going to
now
talk
you
about
will.
something here very shortly, but I think
Yeah.
you're going to see quite a bit more in that area of the world.
I think you will, but most recently, any modern gaming that I've seen, it's different conventions, especially with pictures, because I don't travel much. Is being either Afghanistan, Iraq, or shall we say jungle, so possibly Vietnam has been the main ones, and then you're moving back to World War II. I've not seen many do south of the border, so taking on the cartels and things like that. And I think now it's becoming more and more, shall we say, a little bit of a safe area to game in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so much material there now.
There is now, yeah. And what I mean by safe is there's not a lot where, people that are possibly involved with it aren't speaking about being involved with it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where there's not the social, say, to upset somebody. Say, for example, if you're doing modern Iraq, it might upset somebody. And I'm not trying to disparage that, or anything. It's just how people will feel about gaming in that area.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things in the UK I've seen. One of the guys I game with, he's done some. He's a retired serviceman. He's done some gaming in the Falklands, so setting some games up in the Falklands,
Mm-hmm.
which is an interesting one. From point of view of doing some of the things in there. So it's an area where he wants a game and he's an ex-serviceman. He's happy to do that, and that's another thing. From gaming in theaters is, what do we think as a safe theater to game in? And that's a conversation probably for a completely different, when Chris is here, on what he might think about that. That's something I think might be an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah, we've kind of touched on that in the past, and I can tell you what you told me because I have been out of the loop, but this weekend's XLBS was about too soon, so I'm going to have to watch that and make my comments to the guys. But yeah, let's talk about that in a future episode.
Yeah.
And for you guys out there listening, put your input in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on these topics as well. So you also had a thing here for the Chechen mini campaign from Tiny Terrain Models. Yeah,
he posted up because he's for people who don't know, Tiny Terrain Models is Tiny Terrain. Tiny Models Terrain, I think it is. I'll get this right for him. Tiny Terrain Models. He's done a couple of Kickstarters for the Chechen War. He's done some minis. He's also done some minis for South American police, so Mexican police and things as well. He did a Kickstarter where you could get miniatures in the police federales and with battens and stuff to break down doors. So that leads into the triples table, the colours table. But he was down at colours as well, and he posted up some pictures of his Chechenian board that he's been making. So it's an urban, urban terrain, all based around the Chechenian conflict. And he's busy writing they were testing some rules that he's written for it. And this is another board that looks when you look at it, it looks really good. It looks really like, very immersive, very, puts you into what it would have been like possibly, from point of view of looking at it from stills and things like that. But that's an interesting one as well. I mean, we've seen, you and me have seen stuff where people have done risking it and did that one on Ukraine.
Yeah.
Did that series on Ukraine, which was really interesting to read. Very interesting, area. And this is another area, of interest from taking it away from, something that we in the West probably don't know a lot about.
Yeah.
But you just look at the board and the work, and it's all hand built by the looks of it. It's all foam board, I think, is what he did. So it's a really good board, and of course he was testing his rules. So it looks like he's coming out. He's going to be launching another Kickstarter, I think, with some more Chechenian,
nice
miniatures, and then he's going to have a rule set as well. And we all like rule sets, so
yeah,
something to sort of look at from the future. But it was just two things that I noticed. You look at Facebook, and you see all the different groups people are on, and you look at what people are posting. It's like, oh, that's interesting. That's something, like a nice conversation piece to discuss and things like that.
Yeah, most definitely. The thing that strikes me about this is I've seen quite a bit about the Ukraine and Chechnya.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, it's exploded into this gaming environment. Why do you think so? Why is it grabbed people's interest?
Probably because of modern politics, and I think we'll leave it at that. You can't turn on a news, you can't turn on a TV news coverage thing without the Russia being mentioned in one form or another. So I'm wondering if that's where it's sort of bubbled to the surface.
Okay.
And I do think that it's something that we in the West, we hear more. The main media, media, especially in the UK, covers or did cover Afghanistan and Iraq.
Yeah.
And there's all of these other incidents that are never mentioned. There's things that happen in Africa. Nigeria, where there was some incidences recently. You had Boko Haram and those girls that went missing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Africa is sort of being looked at as Africa, probably jungle is being looked as an area, but there's not many games other than World War II that's set inside of an urban environment. If you think about it, if people do modern gaming in urban, it's often police versus criminal element.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not people defending their homes against an invader. If you sort of see the disparity there, where insurgents versus a unit, and yes, Afghanistan then can be set in urban environments, but not many people play in an urban environment with them.
Yeah,
it's one or two, three buildings on an outskirts of a small hamlet. It's not Stalingrad for the modern day.
So that's basically the itch it's scratching, is it gives you that urban combat that you wouldn't get in Iraq. I mean, Fallujah and Baghdad, they did have, house-to-house fighting, but not to the extent I get. It does. It kind of feels, now that you say that, it kind of feels like the modern Stalingrad.
Yeah.
It really does.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really interesting. So, you had starting scenarios and settings for narrative play.
Yeah.
So linking missions.
Yeah. As I said, I was working on a jungle supplement, and the idea was to build some scenarios out, from almost, you have mission one. And the first mission I had was, the first idea for the mission, I had it written up, and I'll try and find it, and it needs some tweaks, was the OPFOR were in the area, and it was a recruiting patrol. So they were going to the villages to recruit the young men, to join their forces. Yeah?
Right. Mm-hmm.
One of the villages had two doctors from Doctors Without Borders, Sans Frontières, I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
notification had been sent that this force was moving in there, and all non-native nationals were being pulling it out. So I used Tears of the Sun as an idea of it. That the Bruce Willis film. So the idea was that a 6-man SAS group was being dropped in. They were called Task Force Sterling. So I wrote the scenario up. So they were called Sterling, named after, of course, the founder of the SAS. Doing an operation, what I call the Operation Nightingale, because we were rescuing doctors. The idea was that they had to rescue the doctors, pull them out of the village before they were found, because the Op4 had got to the village, so they were being hidden by the locals. Yeah. If then they failed, say all the operators were killed or the doctors were located and extracted before they could get to them, the next scenario was moving on to, so you had sort of two scenarios. The next scenario branching off from that would have been a rescue mission at the Op4 compound, which would have been a harder mission. The mission on the opposite side of that would have been to, possibly just eradicate the Op4 mission by getting into a certain point to get a laser targeter on.
Yeah.
So it's building out a narrative and then building out, a bit like the way Spectre have created their jungle sort of book. Because if you go mission 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they're all linked in some way. And a bit like the way Bold Action seem to have done it with their Market Garden sourcebook, which seems to be narrative as well, where you have scenario 1 and that has a very small force, but that links into scenario 2. If things happen in scenario 1, it has an impact on the next scenario.
Yeah. I have that book somewhere. I have to pull it out.
Yeah. I think that's, especially for certain modern games, is possibly a good way to go, but, it's just me and, my opinion, and it just seems to be the way that some people, especially I like to play. I like to have an idea of a narrative behind what I'm playing. It's all well and good playing, your force versus my force. I've got to hold this objective, but it doesn't excite. And I think, we all want to have our imaginations and our thoughts provoked or excited in some way. And I think narrative play might be a way of doing it.
That would be. Yeah, because... So, we were having a conversation recently, and it was talked about yesterday on the Weekender on Beast of War, was mass battle games are dead. And not that, I want to see Spectre or anything become a mass battle, but the point was, or one of the points was, people, don't have time to play these bigger, in-depth games, and then they just don't seem to have the attention span. To me, when I want to delve into a world, yes, I like my quick and easy game. There are times when it's appropriate. But there are times where I play a game, and I feel at the end of it, there's something missing, or it's lacking something. I played in a bolt action tournament last year at a local game store, and I played three rounds.
Yeah, 3 rounds. I've done a bolt action one before, so yeah.
And it was like, okay, you did this battle, you got to do this. Then you do this battle, you do this. Then it's like by the end of the day, it's like, what did I do? I'm not a competitive player. I've determined I am not a competitive player. I didn't enjoy the competitive aspect of it. Obviously, all war games in some shape or form are competitive because there's a winner, there's a loser. But I didn't want to play to win, to become the champion. So after playing these games, I'm like, what did I do? Yes, I enjoyed it. I had fun. Don't get me wrong, I did. But to me, there was like something more. So the idea of taking your units and developing them and continuing on to the next mission, which would affect the next mission depending on your success or failure, I think that just adds another layer to it. And I think Skirmish does a good job of that. And obviously, role-playing does a good job of that as well. So to be able to combine it all and have this big campaign would be amazing. I think it would be ideal. Say, all right, we're going to do a 6-mission campaign. This is your starting crew. This is your mission. Losses, you do not get replacements until scenario 3, because you look at timeline, train up, and then, your equipment loadouts might be different. So I think what that would do is not only get you invested more into your own unit, but it makes you strategize even more because, I'm going to have this equipment, but it might not have it after this. I might not get replaced. So it definitely adds more to the game.
Yeah, I had the idea for a scenario was one of the ideas. I've been playing with a couple of ideas of scenarios, and I've been looking at old PC because I'm a PC gamer. So I was looking at some old PC game ideas that were out there. So I looked at the original Ghost Recon, the very first Ghost Recon game that ever came out in 2000, I think it was, or 2002. The premise of that was Russia had invaded Georgia, so there was an ultra-nationalist Russian president, and basically kicked off with an invasion of Georgia. You could use that. The starting mission could be one player is the Russian Spetsnaz, the other player is protecting a early warning station, yeah, and the objective of the Spetsnaz is to get in and disable the early warning system.
Yeah.
So it's like the pre-invasion operation.
And then your success or failure would obviously
exactly has an impact, and then you could move on to being NATO, coming in and doing all of that.
No, that's a really good idea.
I used to do some role playing. I started role playing in the mid '80s, and one of the games that the guys were looking at was a really old World War II game, and it was called Behind Enemy Lines, and it was you play a unit in a World War II unit. They played a scenario which was they were German soldiers invading Poland. They were the spearhead of like a small 6-man or 4-man unit.
Okay.
Spearheading the invasion into Poland. So they were acting a bit like what I've done with the Spetsnaz there, but there were German soldiers doing it.
Okay.
So instead of playing the British or the Allies, they were playing the Axis. So, you can flip things on its head and have, fun with doing narrative play like that. The other one I thought about was, and I posted up on Spectre, was that there's a data center somewhere, say in the US, that's it's like an NSA data center. That's been hit by some people to steal some information.
Oh.
So you've got, say, police responders, but then they call in, say, an FBI or a Spec Ops, HRT team, hostage rescue team.
Yes. Yeah.
And the objective of them is to stop. See, it could have it either on a timer or on a number of turns, because the object of the attackers is to hold their position until the data can be stolen and then escape, or transmitted and then escaped. The objective of the opposing force, or the good guys, not the good guys, but the attackers, is to get in and stop them from stealing the data.
Yeah.
And then you have a branch off what was the data, so you could make it up where the data was, either launch codes or something, something like that, and that links into that type of scenario play. So it's all based around a start. That one would be all based around that starting event, where the other one could be not so much a starting event, but an event that has repercussions through all of the missions. Also, I disagree with the title of "Are Mass Games Dead?" I don't think mass battle games are dead. I just think that people are looking at something that's going to be quick, but if they're looking at mass battle games, they're not looking at the big scales. They're not doing, say, 28mm or, scale mass battles anymore.
Yeah.
You're looking at 15:6. You're looking at the smaller scales, so you can put, you could spend a day or two, in time-wise, painting up a large force, but in that smaller scale, and then, moving forward to do battles like that. I don't think mass battles games are dead. I just think people are looking at possibly different scales of doing it.
Oh, I can tell you firsthand that's what I'm doing. I have a Napoleonics system that's in 10 mil that I picked up at Adepticon. I love Epic because of the scale.
Yeah.
And I have War Master because of the scale. So, yeah, I'm definitely on the smaller scale. I have 3 mil moderns that I've talked about using for Team Yankee, give you more realistic ranges. So I agree. I grew up in the age of mass battles, so big Napoleonic battles on your basement floor or Civil War, whatever the case may be. So I agree. It's not that mass battles have died or going away. I think it's just changing to a different size or scale to make it easier for people to play and get into playing, so you don't have to sit there and paint every 28 millimeter or 20 millimeter guys, lanyards and belts and all that silliness. So, but I agree.
I mean, my first wargaming foray was the original red boxed Warhammer Fantasy Battle, and I had it up until a few years back. I had a first edition copy of Rogue Trader, so the original Warhammer 40,000. I had a first edition hardback copy.
Wow.
That I ended up getting rid of because I'm an idiot, but I needed the space and I wasn't playing it, and there was no point in having it because by then you're up to like 6th edition, and it's like, well,
just didn't realize.
It's like, You just don't keep books up, but it's. I remember Bloodbath, the scenario set that I got for Warhammer Fantasy Battle, which was Bloodbath at Orcs Drift.
Yeah.
That was the original box as well, the box scenario with paper minis.
Nice.
Compared to now where we have lots of metal lying around gathering dust.
Yes. So anything else you want to talk about before I talk about our movie review?
There's one other thing which links into that as well is there was an interesting conversation. I'm on a group on Facebook called One Shot Tabletop Role-Playing Games. And someone posted up about the inkling was, talking about gaming in Vietnam, role-playing in Vietnam. And that sort of set me on a thought of, like I said previously, you've got, and we mentioned it, which was we've got Skirmish Sangan, which reminds me personally of a role-playing game based in a modern tabletop environment, because like I said, I don't know of any other game where you roll stats. Like I said, I could be completely wrong and probably am, and I'll be killed in the in the comments. Linking and that also got me thinking is I backed a role-playing game on Kickstarter and it came through and it's really nice. It's called Ghost Operations. For people, if they're interested, you can get a PDF version on Drive-Thru-RPG, and it's gaming as a special operator, sort of in a Tom Clancy vein. So it's very much that techno thriller type of thing.
Okay.
What he's done, which I thought was really ingenious, is he's put a small selection of skirmish rules in.
Oh.
So
nice.
There is so for skills and things like that, you've got your standard role playing.
Yeah.
You've got your standard role playing, sort of skills and things like that. But then if you want to move into using, missions and things like that for say doing combat with miniatures, he's got a small section in the book for skirmish rules. They're not very in depth, so they're not very they're as in depth as you need them to be, and I quite like the idea of this. So it's about, I've just got it open here, so it's 6 pages in the rule book.
Oh, that's nice.
So it's quick, simple, straightforward, skirmish rules. Now, what he said here, which is interesting, this is at the beginning of the chapter, which is, when I began designing Ghost Ops, I wanted the option to use miniatures and to play the game as a skirmish, but I also wanted players to be able to move their operators seamlessly between RPG and skirmish elements I included.
Well, why not?
So his design philosophy was, let's have a role-playing game, but let's see if we can move them between the two. And they did some demos, and I think it might have been with Gen Con. I can't remember, and I do apologise to the publisher, to Fenris, to the guys at Fenris Games. I think it's Fenris Games, Feral Games, who did this. But they recorded some demo, some phone footage. And what was interesting was, where you could see it, is they were role playing a Halo drop.
Mm-hmm.
So you had the different on the table. You had like a C-130, and then you had minis and then you had markers for the different sort of like 10,000, 5,000, so on, feet. And there was things going on each of the the different ranges.
Yeah.
So there was some sort of attack going on or whatever for the different things, but they were role playing the Halo drop itself or the Halo drop.
Oh, nice.
And then into the actual scenario itself. But it was just the thought of having a rule set that's a skirmish rule set, and then having those skill sets from a role-playing game and sort of mashing them together, which in a way modern role-playing games do. You've got rules there for you're moving say 6 squares, so that's 30 feet, things like that, which they do. But it's never sort of occurred to me that when you look at a skirmish game, is that also a role-playing game because of the mechanics?
Yeah, I think that's a nice meld of both genres. So, while we're thinking about it, so just to put your mind at ease, you're right about Skirmish Engine. When you create a character, you roll a d10 and you add 10 to it. And that's what's called your body score, and that's what you base all your skills off of. And then your armor is a d10 plus 4. So it does have that RPG aspect. So you can put your mind to rest, Ralph. You did it right. So, all right. So, kind of going to wrap up the show here. About a quick movie review. So last night before, I got to finally watch Sicario, Day of the Soldado.
I watched it on Wednesday. I've seen it.
And I'm going to tell you, first and foremost, trying not to give anything away, the ending was not an ending.
No, it's not an ending.
I was like, what? I thought I thought I bought it off of Amazon Prime. So I'm like, did the download just stop? It was like, one, the movie went really fast. Two, the ending made it feel like it just stopped in the middle of the movie.
It's a very abrupt ending.
Yes,
it's a very settled ending. But I remember seeing interviews with the writer, with Josh Brolin. And he said that the writer of it wrote 3 movies. So you had the first one.
Yeah.
This one, and then he's got a third part as well.
Well, there's a third one coming.
I hope so. Really enjoyable film. Both of them are really good.
Yes, they are.
But yes, it sort of stops, but then it doesn't. If you know what I mean, there's like this point of that's it. What's going to happen? But yeah, I managed to watch it on Wednesday, and I did enjoy it.
I did too. So for anybody out there who has not seen it, we highly recommend you see it, because even if you don't truly like the movie itself, which I wouldn't understand why, but definitely you have to watch the first one to see the second one. If you start at the second one, you're not going to get the little nuances. You have to get this first one to get the story, the baseline, so you can watch the second one. But it gives you a lot of great ideas for scenarios.
It does. It really does. It does, especially the... How can I say it? The ambush is a really good one.
Yes.
And the end ambush, I would class it as an end ambush, really, as well.
Yeah, it's very well done.
Those two action sequences sort of really do set up, the sort of as ideas for tabletop gaming are great.
So, for anybody out there, it's definitely one to watch. It's available as a digital download currently. I don't think it's ready for rental. I think did you rent it or did you purchase it?
I got a hold of it through rental on iTunes. I'm just going to double check that.
Okay.
Because I think it's on iTunes as a rental.
Okay. Because I know on Amazon you had to purchase. It wasn't available for rental.
I think iTunes is slightly different in some respects because they do rentals as well.
Perfect.
I'm just going to open up iTunes, but I'll double check that.
Okay, and then it will be available for purchase as a Blu-ray next month, early next month. So definitely check it out. Like I said, if you have not seen the first movie, you definitely have to watch the first one. Then watch this one. If you've watched the first one, you definitely want to watch this one. So if you guys are looking for those scenarios in South and Central America, here you go. This is, what the U.S. is kind of battling right now. I'm not saying we're in Mexico and anything. I would not say that because I don't know. Maybe.
Yes. Maybe not. Maybe we'll ask Matt at Spectre.
I'm not confirming or denying I might have any information knowledgeable to any missions within south of our borders, but it definitely gives you a lot of material to base future scenarios and gameplay off of. So, I think that's a show.
It is. It sounds like it.
That was a lot of info. And Ralph, I was tremendous having you on, and we're definitely getting you back, right?
Yes, you'll get me back at some point.
Right. Perfect. So, to everybody out there, we thank you for listening, and we'd like to see you post comments, get your projects in on our Facebook page. That's SitRep Podcast on Facebook. And until we see or talk to you soon, we're still working out the idea of a live show as well, where we can get a lot of people on and get you guys interacting with everybody that's on the show. So until the next time, we're going to RTB. We're going to return to base, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.
Bye, guys.